You are accused of using your position as Minister of the Interior to plot against the Soviet Union with the goal of forwarding the interests of foreign powers.
From the fucking moon.
You are also accused of 347 counts of rape, of sexual deviance, of bourgeois immorality, and acts of perversion with children as young as 7 years old.
7 years old.
Rapist! You are the rapist!
13. Nadia Ivanova, age 14. Madya Holovic, age 12. Would you like to read the list yourself? You are accused of treason and anti-Soviet behavior. The court finds you guilty and sentenced you to be shot.
The P-47 Thunderbolt is an American-made Rank 3 BR-4.3 fighter bomber that was sold to the Soviet Union and is proof that communism is definitely the best system for producing anything, and saying otherwise will result in permanent relocation to Siberia. The Soviet premium version of the D-27 was one of around 200 flown by Stalin's bravest and was rarely used in its allied close air support role, meaning that you will spend a lot of time using it to revenge kill the guy who destroyed your ASU as he has upset the motherland and must be deleted.
Fucking tiger! Whee! Fucking didn't even do anything.
The Rusky P-47 is functionally the same as any other D-series Thunderbolt in the game, of course, meaning that John Mann's excellent video applies here. But we are not talking about filthy capitalist American planes, and as such we will move on to maneuverability. The Stalinbolt is a proud Soviet aircraft with American characteristics, meaning it weighs 3 times more than a Yak-9 at nearly 10 tons or 3 ASU-57s. And as such the only redistribution this plane performs is moving its mass around the sky. The Thunderbolt flies poorly below 4 kilometers and climbs at a below average rate because you've got to handhold the axis even more, but fortunately the downsides end here. The radial Pratt & Whitney 2800 engine with a fucking turbo supercharger bolted onto it gives you a maximum of 2300 horsepower and overheats very slowly, meaning you excel at high altitude and energy fighting, the specifics of which will be discussed later. So it runs like the average Ukrainian family from the NKVD. What about armament? Good news. No fucking shvak cannons here, as Stalin has personally ordered a 50 caliber Browning machine guns with 3400 rounds total, which gives you the raw power to purge enemy fighters like a good leftist purges anyone with a slightly different ideology. And you can spray and pray to Marx himself for ages due to the large ammo capacity. As well as your guns, you get 2 500 kilo homegrown potatoes and a smaller 250 kilo vodka bottle strapped to the bottom just to flex on Hitlerbolt pilots. And these are what you lose to give Axis tank drivers flashbacks to Allied revenge cats, as well as dumping on bases if the last guy alive wants to space climb. Finally, because this plane wasn't designed by a Russian, it actually cares about its pilot not dying immediately, and as such has 10 mil of steel and 40 mil of bulletproof glass to prevent sudden insertion of mine shells. So comrade, how do you play the spreader of imperialism, I mean liberator of Eastern Europe, to start in air battles? Take the tracer belts if you enjoy playing the game, and stealth belts if you're an unhinged communist worker. Take 20 to 30 minutes of fuel depending on how likely you are to die, which in the Red Air Force is very likely, and tell bombs to eat shit. You are a pure energy fighter, and as such altitude is your friend, and turning is to be purged along with innocent minorities. At the start of a battle you side climb until you reach around 7,000 meters, and then pick your targets. If you dive towards the first low-flying fighter you see, you will be picked off, so never do this. Instead you go for targets a maximum of 3 kilometers below you, spraying those guns until the Germans catch fire and the Japanese literally break apart under the weight of your Zukov-led offensive. And if you miss and they turn towards you, never ever fucking turn. Unless you know you can outturn them. Instead, keep your engine at maximum and run at a 5-degree climb, using your energy advantage to keep speed and gain height. However, if you have poured enough Stalinbolt vodka into the engine, you can be an absolute manly man and head on literally anything. as long as you do so at enough altitude to glide back to base. Fortunately, your plane is quite well built by Kansas farm girls, and you can generally shrug off punishment to an extent. But remember that your already fat plane will fly even worse. If everything is dead, base climb to delete 264s that want to go to the moon, or load bombs and attack ground targets. Speaking of which, in ground RB load the potatoes and vodka bottles, and know that you must still prioritize aircraft or you'll be bum raped like any woman interrogated by the NKVD. Your big bombs can be dropped near most tanks and obliterate them, but try to hit clusters of tanks for the real tsar bomb experience, and use the smaller one accurately on lightly armored tanks. Just remembering to pull up in time, and finally use the 50s on open top tanks or light SBANs. Now you know how to command the obese Russian boomer. What upgrades do you choose? As you are a capitalist pay to win premium, I mean a socialist equal workers exclusive. You do not have any modifications to research, and as such we will move on to Vladimir's training. Prioritize the forced injection of spirits into the bloodstream to neutralize the pain of enemy fire, followed by G tolerance to immunize him against too much vodka and stamina to make him the peak Marxist man. And if you play ground battles, take the reloading and repair buffs to make the proletariat stuff crap bombs onto the plane faster. So in conclusion, should you buy the P-47 Stalinbolt? Absolutely, as it is both an excellent boom and zoom fighter and a better close air support bomber than half the Russian tree, and goes very well with a KV-2, a Su-57 and T-34, and only costs about 12 capitalist golden eagles. By following these simple steps you will find that this is the correct way to play the P-47 D-27 Thunderbolt. Now go out there and influence American elections.
I've lost control. Engine oil leak. Overheat.
Don't worry, that guy's on fire. Don't worry, bro, just keep turning, keep doing your movies. Oh fuck, Spitfire, don't keep turning actually. Oh, just like the opposite of what you should do. Fuck, I hit him.
Pulled in. Right, bruv, I'm still giving support fire. See this?
Oh fuck, now I'm done.